Hello, good evening, and welcome back to my channel. Now, apartments near Phoenix Park in Dublin. Now, a bit of information here, but obviously we're not going to get our hopes up, are we? Because it's pretty much and impossible to basically get a deposit up together for all these ridiculous inflations going on. So, right, how Ireland's affordable rent scheme delivered 30% price cuts. As if any of us Irish are going to believe that, and how it could be improved. There's always room for improvement. So cost rental is easing pressure for some, but it's nowhere near big enough to fix Ireland's rental crisis. Why tell us something that we already know anyway? So it's at bad times for Irish renters. Obviously, prices have been on a relentless upward march for many years now, and we're well aware of that, with the annual rate of inflation often cracking 10%. So more young people, regardless, not just the young, middle-aged, elderly, are being forced to share homes with their parents, while those who manage to live independently fork over an ever-rising share of their income. Prices are up to around about 5% over the last year. Rents for existing tenancies have reached €1,500 a month, while those taking out new leases face paying almost €1,800. Basically, for Dublin, those figures jump to an average of almost €2,000 and €2,300 a month, respectively. All depends on the location. These are difficult to manage for anyone earning relatively normal wages and prohibitive for anyone in low-paid work. So, of course, it's impossible. All of this negativity is why it's worth holding on to the fewer positive developments that they're saying is going to help the Irish. One came through recently that Ireland's affordable rental scheme has resulted in substantially lower cost prices. And again, where exactly is that happening? Cost rental is working, but it's still too small. You can say that again and say it many times over. A new study from the ESRI found that cost rental housing has delivered substantial affordability gains. These homes provided under the scheme are on average 30% cheaper than comparable accommodation in the private market, saying that it is a success worth highlighting. The goal for the initiative is to provide rental homes which cost at least 25% less than normal. The findings show that this goal is being regularly exceeded, as it always is anyway. The concept of cost rental is summed up in the name, that is, the rent for a home should only cover development and maintenance costs, basically. This type of accommodation only aims to be self-sustaining. The goal is not to make a profit. It's all about profit. Built by state organisations and approved housing bodies, it is targeted at the so-called squeezed middle, that is, those earning too much for social housing but not enough that they can comfortably afford to handle the cost of the private market. There's a lot of us that can't handle the cost of the private markets. Applicants must have a net annual household income below 66,000 in Dublin and 59,000 euro in the rest of the country. Well, to be honest with you, a couple, if they exceed 65, 70,000 per annum, you're in with a chance. Those that are under, it's going to be a struggle. They have to meet several other requirements, such as the rent price not being more than 35% of their net income. So tenants also have security of tenure following an initial 6-month probation. Tenancies are of unlimited duration, essentially never having to worry about eviction. That's always on everyone's mind, worries of eviction because of the inflation and the constant ongoing debate and worry and concern that everyone falling behind in the rent. These homes still account for a small proportion of the overall market. There are about 3,600 cost rental homes in Ireland. As of the 2022 census, there were over 330,000 rental properties. Now, the model has proved incredibly popular, with their scarcity further fueling demand. Dozens of these new cost rental units regularly receive thousands of applications. They say one thing, then they say another, but there's nothing popular about units or sheds in people's back gardens. That's not accommodation, that's just treating somebody like a criminal. The problem Ireland's models is tied to market rents. However, there is something which may help the system improve further, breaking the link with market rents. Ireland's cost rental model is unusual. Yeah, you can say that again. The idea is to provide accommodation which is not subject to market rates. Ireland's system instead reinforces the link by setting a very clear 25% benchmark. Now, this can cut both ways. In some areas, cost rental accommodation could be even cheaper. The system is one which we have adopted from European countries such as Austria and Finland. So, in Vienna, the Austrian capital, social housing is 32% cheaper than rent in the private market. Ireland stacks up well, but in Finland, cost rental housing can be somewhere and anywhere from 15% to 45% under the going market rate. In Ireland's system, which the true cost rental, it's likely that rents in some areas would be even lower. The ESRI was clear in its comments, recommending that the explicit link to market rents be phased out. It said instead cost rental prices should be set purely on the basis of economic cost, that is only set relatively to development and maintenance costs as intended. Now, a perfect example of this came last week when Approval Housing Body Clwyd abandoned its plans for 40 cost rental units in capital Dublin. The organisation said it ran into viability problems due to rising costs. One excuse after the other. Rising costs in areas such as planned maintenance, cyclical costs and component replacement means that it would not be possible to deliver these at cost rental homes with rents 25% below market rate. Essentially, the rent prices, if 25% lower than normal, would have been too low to pay for the development and maintenance costs. This is another area where it could be useful to abandon a link to market rates. If the homes can be developed with rents set 20% or 15% below market rates, they are still providing desperately needed affordable accommodation. Better built this way than not at all, basically. So, while rent prices are highest in the capital, there are plenty of areas around the country which are also suffering from inflation. Most obvious is the counties surrounding Dublin and the counties' other cities, Cork, Limerick, Galway and Waterford. Now, this leads into the second point, the positive wider impact that the scheme could have. Now, the hope is that providing lots of new homes at lower rents will create a dampening effect, that is, put downward pressure on the market and push down prices somewhat, or at least slow the rate of inflation. The logic is simple. The higher supply of cheap homes means there is less demand for a more expensive accommodation, leading to price falls. Again, it's all about profit. And Ireland's aims for delivery are relatively modest. Previous plans set a target of building 2,000 cost rental homes a year, while there is not even a set target in more recent documents. Now, the research indicates that the way forward likely involves breaking the explicit link to market rents to ensure that as many cost rental homes as possible can be built quickly and sustainably. So what they're saying is units and outhouses, back houses in people's properties, sheds, don't fall for it. So we're not animals, we're human beings. So please cop on and just use your brains, common